Reform Limited seem to be making quite a bit of traction of late, claiming they've now exceeded the Conservatives' party memberships as people flock to them thinking they're anti-establishment, when in fact they're the embodiment of an establishment. However, it's clear the people who are flocking to them don't watch their performances in Parliament and have just been listening to the social media nonsense that they spew out on a daily basis. That's because if you did listen to the actual questions they asked, they'd understand that they're not very bright. So I've put together a compilation of 6 times in the past few months either been shut down or schooled on their idiotic questions. Admittedly, it's mostly Lee Anderson, but still he represents them as a party.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now then, I welcome the news of the Council House revolution. And we all know the Deputy Prime Minister is a little bit of an expert when it comes to council housing. But can she confirm that priority will be given to British families, veterans and pensioners?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, we have confirmed that people with a local connection will get priority in those homes. But I also say to the honourable gentleman who tries to make a quip about the fact that I grew up in a council house, is that the situation that I hear, and when I was took on this brief, is that actually people used to talk about my childhood as if I grew up in poverty, but there's many kids today that if they got a council house, it would be considered they'd won the lottery. Those children today can't have that. So we will build the homes. We will prioritise that people locally can get them, and we'll make sure that first-time buyers get first dibs as well. There's a number of measures that we're putting in place to make sure that the homes that are built are there for the people that need it.
Madam Deputy Speaker, now then, this Secretary of State is absolutely living in a completely different world to my constituents, because they're not asking for this on the doorstep at all. This Secretary of State, by the way, Madam Deputy Speaker, is quite happy to spend £11.6 billion on climate aid abroad, £8.5 billion on GB Energy, yet rob our pensioners of £300 at the same time. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. When will my pensioners in Ashfield receive significant discounts on their fuel bills, and how much will it be by?
Yeah. I could say to the honourable gentleman, by the way, I thought that they supported a publicly owned energy company in his party, but I may be wrong about that. I can absolutely say to him that this is the way to deliver lower bills for his constituents. And the reality, I mean, they can shout all they like, Madam Deputy Speaker, but the reality they have to face, and I know this is hard for him, the reality they have to face is this, which is, does he believe that continuing reliance on fossil fuels as a country, saying no to renewables, which I think is their position, will give us energy security? And the truth is that it won't. He says he agrees with me. Well, look, I look forward to him supporting our clean energy superpower mission.
Oliver Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Will the Secretary of State actually, who's obsessed with renewable energy, be honest with the British people? Because the truth is that the offshore wind turbines bid today are some 20% above current prices. The floating offshore wind is some 3 times the current prices. His own department, Madam Deputy Speaker, say that actually this requires subsidies of some £1.5 billion a year. That's before the extra transmission costs, before the constraint payments, before the compensation payments for blighting the countryside of my constituents, and before the cost of backup when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. So why would the Secretary of State be honest and tell the truth that renewable energy is more expensive, not cheaper?
Secretary of State.
I have to say that I'm interested in the honourable gentleman's intervention, because his manifesto is basically for higher bills and to make people poorer. And you don't need to look into the crystal ball. You just need to look at the record, because the truth is that the cost of living crisis, the energy bills crisis, casts a long shadow in this country. And the energy bills crisis was not caused by our dependence on renewables. It was caused by our exposure to fossil fuels. And he just needs to understand this very basic point, which is that whether fossil fuels are produced in this country or internationally, they are sold on the international market. And that's why the British people paid the price and government forked out £94 billion. And the only way to get off the roller coaster of international gas markets and take back control is to become a clean energy superpower.
Speaker, Yang Tembo is the alleged Chinese spy who's been stalking the corridors of power in our country and rubbing shoulders with royalty, prime ministers and business leaders, yet his name has been withheld from the great British public. Does the Minister agree with me that it was only withheld to avoid embarrassment of previous prime ministers, business leaders, and was not in the best interests of the British public?
Well, I'm sure the honourable member will acknowledge that I named H6, the individual, that the reason for his initial anonymity was as a result of a court order and was not a decision by the UK government.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Secretary of State please explain to me and the House what the government's definition of Islamophobia actually is?
Secretary of State.
Well, I say to the honourable member that a new definition must be given careful consideration so that it comprehensively reflects multiple perspectives and considers potential implications for different communities. And we're actively considering our approach to Islamophobia, including definitions, and we'll provide further updates on this in due course.
Only a couple of weeks ago, Richard Tice welcomed the fact that he might be getting a $100 million donation from the world's richest man, Elon Musk. But he hasn't always been overjoyed of having foreign money attempting to influence British politics. It seems now that the money's coming in his direction, he's quite happy to forget that a little bit. You can see him being a complete hypocrite in the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.